They're very willing and able to target journalists and activists and people that are either critical of the state or corporations. And that's really what Barrett was looking into, is this collusion between the government and the private intelligence industry.
Oh, is Barrett getting raided by the FBI? Holy
Hi, I'm Zach Weissmuller for Reason TV. I'm here with Kevin Gallagher, director of Free Barrett Brown, a legal defense fund for Barrett Brown, an online activist and journalist who was imprisoned in September 2012 for posting a link to leaked material, among other things. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Barrett Brown was one of the first, if not the first person, to actually be imprisoned for posting a link on a website. Could you explain the backstory on that?
Back in December 2011, some people associated with Anonymous had hacked into Stratfor, Strategic Global Intelligence, which is a firm in Texas that collects intelligence from all around the world. They had released their emails and also their customer database. Now what Barrett Brown did is he was in a chat room at the time, and when the data came out and the hackers put it online, he merely posted a link to it to point it out to his researchers that he was working with, to say, oh, check this out, let's see what's in here, who is a client of Stratfor, basically. And the government later, after having arrested him, indicted him for sharing a link.
And for that crime, he was facing up to 45 years in prison. And he, again, to clarify, he was not the person who actually perpetrated the hack. They arrested someone in connection with that, and I believe he faced about 10 years. So what explains that disparity?
I think that just shows that it's a politically motivated prosecution and a persecution, really. And it ties into the wider theme that's happening right now, which is the U.S. government going after journalists and whistleblowers with whatever they can do. They'll just make up charges. So Barrett Brown was really overcharged, and the charges were bogus.
So if you're saying that it's a political crime, then we need to get a little bit more into the details of what exactly the Stratfor leak revealed. So Stratfor is a private security firm, has lots of government contracts around the world. What exactly was in that information that was of interest to Barrett Brown?
A number of newsworthy things came out of the Stratfor emails, and still to this day, journalists are finding things in there every day because they're posted on WikiLeaks.org. One of the things was Coca-Cola had hired them to look at PETA and surveil PETA, also Bhopal, India activists, and they're also monitoring the Occupy Wall Street protests. What we've learned about private intelligence firms, in large part because of the leaks like Stratfor and HBGary, shows that they're very willing and able to target journalists and activists and people that are either critical of the state or corporations. And that's really what Barrett was looking into, is this collusion between the government and the private intelligence industry.
So the FBI raided Barrett's home and seized a number of his laptops and hard drives. And in the process, they actually charged his mother with a crime of obstruction of justice for allegedly hiding one of his laptops. And this seems to have really kind of sent him over the edge. He posted a very angry, rambling video on YouTube, which is still up there, supposedly threatening an FBI agent. How did this change the case?
Well, it gave them a pretext to arrest him. What he was saying in that video was basically, it's been 6 months since you guys, the FBI, raided me, and you haven't filed any charges. What's happening here? Like, I'm a journalist. Why can't I get my laptops back? He had been working on a book, and he had all this valuable material on those computers, which then put him at a loss because it's still in possession of the FBI.
Barrett's work turned into something called Project PM. Could you tell me a little bit about what that was, what its goals were?
Project PM is like a crowdsourced think tank where he's basically soliciting volunteers from the internet to go through the emails that were hacked and leaked out of HBGary and Stratfor to find things of significance and journalistic revelations within them. Originally, when Project PM was formed, Barrett's goal was to kind of reform the media, because he believed that people who did not deserve to have an influence within the media had undue influence, and that he was writing a book about, criticizing columnists and pundits and stuff like that. It evolved into what it became, which is a distributed think tank to investigate the private intelligence industry.
Stratfor was a privately owned company. So do people have a right to their data, and shouldn't there be some sort of prosecution for these kind of leaks?
I think it can be shown that the leaks are in the public interest insofar as they reveal these private entities actually targeting the public. I think the government outsources to private intelligence firms in order to avoid the types of accountability that they could be subject to through the Congress. And also the capabilities that they have within the private sector are years beyond what we can even imagine. So I think as far as privacy is concerned, we should be very concerned about it.
These leaks and the entire Barrett Brown saga happened before any of the Snowden leaks that really grabbed the public attention occurred. Do you see some sort of through line from the work that Barrett was doing to the eventual Edward Snowden leaks?
I do. I think the Snowden leaks have vindicated the things that Barrett was talking about for years, and it was like no one was listening, and people called him paranoid, but actually he was right about everything. And also Booz Allen Hamilton, which was Snowden's his last employer before he left the NSA, was a firm that Barrett was actually investigating and looking into with Project PM.
You've been corresponding with him as he's been sitting in prison for the past 19 months. He's finally reaching some sort of plead-out deal. What's his mindset at this point?
I get the sense that he's very laid back and optimistic about everything. He's looking forward to getting out, and he has a very good chance of getting out soon, which, before he made this plea agreement, that was all up in the air, and it was all very uncertain. He had over 100 years hanging over his head. So I think he's just looking forward to continuing his life and, picking up his journalism where he left off.
What do we know about the details of the plea deal, if anything? What's been dropped, and what is he still being charged with, or what might still be on the table?
We don't know the exact details, but we presume that it's actually very favorable and generous to him. He's still charged with obstruction of justice and a new count, which is accessory after the fact to an unauthorized access of protected computer, which is a strange charge because it's essentially him protecting Jeremy Hammond, the hacker who hacked into Stratfor. And the prosecutors are saying that he created confusion over Jeremy Hammond's identity. And at least one charge related to the videos which he made in speaking out against the FBI agent.
When it comes to computer-related crimes, that the penalties just seem out of proportion to anything else. We saw the same thing with Aaron Swartz. He was facing decades for basically releasing information to an academic database. What is wrong with the computer laws in this country?
I think there's like a hacker hysteria, and the fact that judges do not understand the technical issues, and prosecutors play upon that to say that a hacker could, like they said during the Kevin Mitnick trial in the 90s, he could blow into a payphone and launch nuclear missiles.
Anyone interested in learning more about this case or lending their support, where should they turn?
They should go to freebarrettbrown.org, and also we're on Twitter as freebarrett_. Definitely urge people to donate to the Legal Defense Fund so we can cover his legal costs.
Kevin Gallagher, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks, Zach.
For Reason TV, I'm Zach Weissmuller.